And I remember wishing that somebody would come and find me, that somebody would come and ask me, "What happened? Are you okay?" But nobody did. One of the things about trauma and abuse is that it really makes us feel ashamed of ourselves, like there's something bad about us. But as soon as we start to talk with people who know and understand and get it, all of that shame can start to drop away, because shame cannot exist when we speak. It only lives in silence. But in that moment, a really strong internal voice said, "Rachel, enough. You have got to get it together, like right now, or you are going to spend the rest of your life just suffering and surviving and miserable. It is time to stop just surviving, and it is time to start living. Just like a broken leg can heal, so can the injury of trauma and abuse." Hi there, everyone. I'm Rachel Grant, and I'm so glad that you're here listening and connecting and taking some time to watch this video. I'm really looking forward to sharing a little bit of my story with you, and I hope wherever you're at in your life journey that you can take a little bit of hope and inspiration from my story. So I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Oklahoma, so small town girl, country girl, and I really loved growing up in Oklahoma. Man, life was slow, life was easy. There was so much beauty and nature to explore and to take advantage of. And I lived with my mom and dad. And when I was 5 years old, my grandfather came to live with our family. Now, I was super excited about this because I had an older brother and sister who were much older, like 9 and 10 years older. So they really didn't pay me much attention. And that's okay. That's cool. But what that meant is I sometimes felt a little lonely, even as a 5-year-old. So when my grandfather came to live with us, I was happy. I thought, okay, here is somebody who I can play with and who I can talk to and who will be giving me his undivided attention. And so I would come home from school and I would run straight to his room and we would talk and laugh and play. And we also spent a lot of days out on the front porch swing, talking, and I loved to cuddle. And he always wore this orange fuzzy sweater. So I'd just snuggle up real close to him and we would talk and we would swing. And I felt safe. I felt comforted. I felt nurtured. I felt taken care of. One day when I was 10 years old, I was laying on my belly, you know how you do, hands up, on the chin, on the cheeks, watching some TV, and my grandfather came walking down the hall. And I knew he was going to go out onto the front porch, and I was keen to go spend some time with him. And so I hopped up too, and we went on out to the front porch. And as we were sitting there, snuggled up as we always were, my grandfather reached around and touched my breast. Now, I remember thinking that he just didn't know what he was doing. It was just a mistake. So I started to wiggle and I started to try to move and I started to try to get away. But he gripped a hold of me tighter. Oh man, I got scared, super scared. What's happening? What's going on? And in that moment, my body froze. Now, for any of you who are listening, who have experienced any type of abuse, you might remember feeling that sensation, kind of frozen, kind of stuck. Sometimes people describe it as looking from the outside in, kind of watching yourself in a moment. And I want you to know that that's just a really normal reaction. That's what your body does when it's activated. When your system starts to sound the alarms, you're in danger, something bad is happening here, one of the things it's going to do is actually cause your body to freeze. And from there, begin to try to figure out how to help you survive. Can you run away? Can you fight back? So after some moments of freezing, my body kind of clicked into place again, and I jumped up and I ran to my parents' bedroom. Oh, I was crying. I was upset. I was overwhelmed. What had just happened? I didn't have any experience with sex. And so, sexual touch, any of these things So I didn't even have any language or understanding of what had just happened to my body, what I had felt in my body. And I was just crying and crying. And I remember wishing that somebody would come and find me, that somebody would come and ask me, "What happened? Are you okay?" But nobody did. The abuse went on for some time, and it worsened until one day my mom happened to be walking by and saw my grandfather touching me. Now, my mom, whoo, she went into full-on mama bear mode, and she snatched me away from him, and she and my dad immediately got my grandfather out of our home, which I'm so very thankful for. And if you're somebody who's experienced abuse and the adults or the other people around you didn't protect you, didn't believe you, I'm so sorry that happened. I've been working with men and women who have experienced sexual abuse for so many years, and I've heard so many stories of people who have been blamed, outright called liars. So if that's your experience, again, you didn't deserve that. You deserved so much better. I'm so grateful to my mom and dad for the way in which they stood up for me, protected me, and took care of me in that moment. Now, while they got my grandfather out of the house, this didn't do much to change how I felt. And yeah, they wanted me to go to counseling, but y'all, I was not having that. I was like, "Are you crazy? I am not sitting down and talking about this and going over it again and again." And so I just wanted to bury my head in the sand and pretend that everything was okay. And that's what I tried to do. Through my teen years, I was a hot mess. I was having a hard time with sex. I was having a hard time with dating. I really felt very worthless. I felt ashamed. I felt like everybody knew this like dirty thing about me. Oh my gosh. I struggled with confidence, expressing myself. In other ways, I really excelled. I did great in school. I had wonderful hobbies. I did have some close friends. But underneath it all, it really felt so much like I was pretending. And that's painful. It's painful when there's this part of ourself that we feel like we can't name, we can't touch. How are people really going to know us? How are people really going to love us? When I got to college, I started dating someone who really helped me begin to see that I was still suffering as a result of the abuse I had experienced. And so I started going to counseling. I started to get some help. I started to be brave and talk about the things that had happened to me. And all of that really began to help. You know, one of the things about trauma and abuse is that it really makes us feel ashamed of ourselves, like there's something bad about us. But you know, as soon as we start to talk with people who know and understand and get it, all of that shame can start to drop away because shame cannot exist when we speak. It only lives in silence. So I started to have some really good mentors and really good guides. And at the same time, I was in a really tough relationship. It was abusive, it was harmful. And so when that relationship ended, it was a real turning point in my life. And sometimes that's what happens in life. We have these defining moments that change everything. And this was one for me. I remember sitting in my new apartment and all I had was a sleeping bag and a lamp. And life looked scary again. How am I ever going to find love? What if I just keep making these same mistakes over and over and over again? Who's going to want me? But in that moment, a really strong internal voice said, "Rachel, enough. You have got to get it together, like right now, or you are going to spend the rest of your life just suffering and surviving and miserable. It is time to do something else. It is time to stop just surviving, and it is time to start living." And so that is really the moment in my life when I became committed to trying to answer this question of how do we actually heal from sexual abuse? I began reading everything that I could. I found some really good mentors. I did my master's in counseling psychology, and I began to study neuroscience. And that has been one of my favorite things to work on. Really understanding the neuroscience of trauma and what happened to my brain and to my body and to my nervous system has made such a huge difference for me. One of the most important things that I've learned, I wasn't broken. I was hurt. I was injured. But just like a broken leg can heal, so can the injury of trauma and abuse. And so I set myself to the task and I began working and learning and healing. And then I started helping others do the same. Now, to be honest, I wasn't really on that path. I thought I was going to be a high school English teacher. And then I took a little diversion into elementary education and then nannying and then working in startups. And so my life journey has been so wiggly. And for many of you, you might find that to be the case too. Don't worry about that. It's okay. We find our way to what it is we're going to be doing, what our passion and our purpose is in due time. Today, I'm so grateful for all of the healing that I've experienced. And my greatest wish is for any of you who are listening, who are suffering, who are believing that you're worthless, who believe that this is all your fault, that you should have done something, that you could have done something. I truly hope you'll hear me today. I wish somebody had told me when I was a teenager that that was not true. And yeah, I probably wouldn't have believed them. Honestly, I would have been like, yeah, right. What does this old lady know? But please, as best you can, try to hear and try to receive from somebody who has been there. None of that's true. You are deserving. You are lovable. You are smart. You are kind. You are generous. You are compassionate. You are capable. And this is not a life sentence. Your life can be yours. Go out, claim it, talk, get support. And if there's anything I can do to be a resource to you, I'm here. Thank you so much for listening to my story today. Blessings to you. And until we meet again, take good care of you.
Tell us what you think about this video, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.